Good morning to you once again and welcome back to the Afia Morning Show. Now we take our regional stories beginning in Enugu, where today marks the 34th anniversary of Enugu State. Of course, former military President General Ibrahim Babangida in 1991 carved out Enugu from the old Anambra State. Afia TV's head of news and current affairs, Mr. Ogbodo, in this special report unravels the reasons for the Wawa Agitation and the major players behind the struggle. Take a look.
Enugu's journey to statehood from various historical accounts started in the late 60s, an agitation many decades in the making, climaxing in 1991, bringing to an end the emancipation of the Wawa people. Wawa was more than a word. It represents the resilience of the people of northern Igbo land in the present-day Enugu State. But what prompted the agitation for the creation of a new state from the old Anambra State? Comrade Fidelis Ede, former deputy president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, recalls some of the issues.
First, the word necessity could be up from the point that it wasn't as if Enugu State was created without struggle, or whether the struggle lasted for just a year. It was a protracted struggle. But that struggle was also not just an agitation because people wanted it. It was something that emerged from the experience people had. We could go back even before independence, but to locate the Wawa struggle that brought the state creation in 1991, we can start from the Civil War. Because during the Civil War, given what we came to learn later from a meeting held in '69, just as the war was coming to an end, nobody knew. A meeting convened somewhere in Mbano, Bayono. Those who attended, according to record, Ozobu, Abangu, Jeyunwodo, Professor Denigweda. You can check out the names, but I'm trying to make point to the agenda of the meeting. The agenda centered on the experience the Northern Igbo, or what you now call Wawa, had. The way they were treated, not by the Nigerian soldiers or Nigerian government, but within the Biafran enclave led by Ojukwu. This is not a critique, but it's a fact of history.
Enugu State did not emerge without the hard work and sacrifice of many eminent Wawa sons. Salaz Chukwukelo, author and publisher, New Generation Books, recalls some of those sacrifices made by the Wawa people in the creation of Enugu State.
The struggle had been a checkered one. The Onos, the Abangus, the Onyas, they fought that battle for decades. They fought to see that the Wawa man is not seen, is not being looked on as hewers of wood and drawers of water. Because that's actually what it is. And you know, these people took every position, every responsible position in the civil service after Okwabi Asika had a stint in East Central State. So a bulk of the people from the south occupied virtually every ministry and parastatal. At the higher echelon, just like you pointed out, you only see the Wawa man in menial jobs, as messengers, as drivers, and so on and so forth. It was actually that way, and these three people I mentioned, the Onos, the Abangus, and the Onyas, they tried their bit. They tried, and they were called so many names, so many. They thought that Wawa will be a derogatory name for the Wawa man, but Ono made it a pride for the Wawa man. There was this this thing they had to coin, dichotomy north-south dichotomy. The Southerners wanted to maintain the status quo. That was why they were against what Ono and the Abangus were championing. The one man had fought. And when you say Wawa, one funny thing is that the Oka people in the south speak Wawa, the Abakaleke man speaks Wawa, the Mbo man speaks Wawa, the Udi man says Wawa, and till today, I am so proud.
Ndubisi Enechionya, son of the late Chief Enechionya, senior advocate of Nigeria, also went down memory lane on how the resistance showed the creation of Enugu State has affected creation of additional states in the southeast.
First was that the fight for the creation of Enugu State started during the Civil War. And Enugu State would have been created in 1976. First state creation after the Civil War. Enugu State would have been created. You know, it was at the point of gazetting it that the name of Enugu was removed from the state's creation. And the reason was simple. Those who didn't want Enugu created were stronger than those who wanted Enugu created. So as people were putting pressure to create Enugu, there was a much stronger pressure not to create Enugu. So it was this fight that took them to the second state creation in the 80s. And then the same thing played out. And then the military promised them that if they could get signatures of the stakeholders from those who didn't want, that was the Anambra side, if they could meet and agree on the creation of Enugu, then the President Babangida, who was the president, said, if you could get me signatures that said the people from Anambra agree to this creation, I will create Enugu State. And that was what they did, you know. But it was behind the scene because a lot of people who were supposedly stakeholders, whenever they go to Lagos then to inquire about Enugu, nothing was happening. So a lot of people felt that nothing was happening about Enugu. You know, at several meetings, they would say to the people who were talking about Enugu, that you're deceiving our people, that we've checked and there's nothing about Enugu. But they were communicating with Babangida. And they were communicating with their brethren from Anambra, you know. So eventually, when the state was created, it was a surprise to a lot of people. It was just the few people who were interacting with Babangida that knew that Enugu was going to be created. And if you look at that announcement, Enugu was the last one announced. They had announced it, and Babangida said, and then finally, the old Anambra State. You know, so it was there are lessons for a lot of us, because when people talk about that they marginalize the Igbos, that we have 5 states instead of 6, I see them as people who talk from ignorance, because there was a lot of pushback from the Easterners on state creation, on local government creation. You know, when local governments were about to be created, there was a lot of pushback. Many local governments didn't want to be divided. You know, so it's for me, it's a learning process for us. You know, now we understand a bit how things work. I'm sure that if there are things that are happening in other areas that want to happen here, that we won't have a lot of pushbacks from our own people.
34 years after the creation of Enugu State, have the dreams of its founding fathers been fulfilled? Time will tell. Ogbodo, Afia TV.
Fantastic one as usual there from Ogbodo, Afia TV head of news and current affairs. Great looking back at the history of Enugu. 34 years into statehood. They're saying big congratulations to Enugu. Happy anniversary to Enugu. And if we must even say happy birthday.